Peace, world. Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment clip with myself, Wood, or R.L. Woodson. We'll talk a little bit about DAZN and maybe this relationship with the community, black people. And I'm assuming or presuming, my thoughts would be traitorous or deemed traitorous, maybe Thomish, probably selloutish, whatever, somebody want to look at you and simply, sum up what you're talking about without really thinking anything that you said through. But, it's par for the course. But I got into a little back and forth with a partner of mine yesterday, an avid boxing fan. And, his basic thought was that nobody over at DAZN is doing anything. None of the big names or bigger names are really doing anything besides Canelo Alvarez. And, for the most part, I don't really disagree with that. But in some regards, it's kind of like Floyd Mayweather when he was fighting during the end of his run. The guaranteed money that Canelo has, you motivated as hell to go to work. Plus, you only got to go to work twice a year. So he approaches his job with much more vigor, with a greater sense of he's happy to go to work. And by going to work, it's not just fight night; it's putting together the event. It's selecting the opponent, the right opponent. You're going to work for $33-35 million a fight. Hell yeah, you should be out here trying to make a big fight or make an event or make something that sells. There has to be some angle to draw people in. But the other guys that he was complaining about, what can they really do until Canelo announces what his next move is? And obviously somebody like Triple G, Triple G has a somewhat of a reasonable claim to, hey, give me my rematch. Like we're 0-1-1 here, with Canelo having the one win. You took all my belts. I don't get a chance to get my belts back. He's a 37-year-old guy. Should he just be rushing out here to face Danny Jacobs, or to rush out here to face Demetrius Andre when there is a reasonable expectation? Definitely you would sit here and make sure that fight is dead. The third fight with Canelo, you would make sure that third fight is dead before you go and consider the alternatives, whether that be Andre or a rematch with Daniel Jacobs, or maybe he just says the hell with it and walks away, which it is what it is. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm a big proponent of the third fight, but at $9.99 that I'm currently paying, or the $19.99 that some people, the newer people or the in and out people, might have to pay, well, you make your decision. You buy it or you don't buy it. Okay. So we go back and forth, and I'm just like, again, Canelo is the man over there. He's hovering around 3 divisions. And at all 3 of those divisions, you're going to sit there and not do anything until his decision is announced. Then you go and figure out, which I've asked this before, like at some point in time, and I know Charlo's not on the app, but at some point in time, does Charlo's and Andre, do you say, screw it, that fight ain't coming, I got to go out here and figure out how to get my own business popping, how to get my own, how to become a big draw. What's the fights out here that I can go out here and submit my legacy? It's time to start thinking what you got to do. Is that a unification bout between those two guys? I don't know. But again, until Canelo announces what he's doing, You sitting there waiting by the phone. I'm sure Charlo's not waiting by the phone. But, yeah, what can those dudes do right now? Another point that we got into was like, for the discussions, the ongoing discussion about the DAZN in general, especially amongst my brethren, amongst the community. I don't hear anybody ever saying, rarely, I don't hear many saying the fights that are on there, the good fights that have been on there, the unexpected good fights that have been on there. I mean, and let's establish that $19.99 a month. I guess they feel like if we get you for 1 month or 2 months out of the year at that $19.99, maybe that makes the numbers work for them. If people do jump in for a particular month and do the 19, maybe that hits some break-even point or whatever. Another tangent real quick. My buddy, and you can check me out. I'm not going to call him out, but you can check me out at Bite Down Boxing on Twitter. You can find the thread or whatever. But he mentioned that, he just jumped in last minute trying to get the night of the fight with Canelo and Jacobs and tried to get the fight, ran into some issues with the billing and wasn't able to get the fight or something. They kept his money. And I understand that's unfortunate. That's effed up. And I'm sure the DAZN is some level, even though it's just one customer, that's not the customer experience and the relationship that you want to have. That's not the impression you want to have. Now, this individual had paid the $9.99 when it first started, but then didn't like what was going on, so he left the app and then tried to come back for the Canelo fight. But my thing is this: if you just came back the night of the Canelo fight or the day before the Canelo fight, then you missed the 3 or 4 weeks ahead of it to where you really would have gotten your month off. Unless your thing was to get the Canelo and then to get the June 1st fight with Anthony Joshua and Ruiz. But the benefit, the biggest bang for the buck, if you out here bean counting, you should have been in like 4 or 5 weeks earlier when it started its big run. But it's really become asinine when we're going to count beans and when we're not going to count beans with the whole app. And again, the thing is, for everybody, if it's not working for you, it's just not working for you. If you don't like what they're offering, you just don't like what they're offering. That's fine. No harm. But it's almost like, we could get into the pay-per-views earlier in the year that really weren't. The Garcia card was trash. Garcia and Spence, that card was pretty much trash. And then it was a one-sided main event. The Pacquiao and Broner fight, trash. It was trash going into it. At least Spence and Garcia, there was some intrigue there going into it. But the undercard of Broner and Pacquiao, I thought was so-so. I think it was so-so, but okay. But then we look here over the next few months when we got to get into some of these PBC fights. Am I going to sit here and complain the way that the detractors of the DAZN have went on and on and on about what they don't offer? I mean, they tried to do $10 a month, man. Like that was unreasonable. $10 a month. Now, like I said, I understand if it jumped to the $19.99 and you came in at that point and you think that's too much. That's a fair argument. That's a fair argument. And they may have to eventually do something with that. I get that. But again, from the start, it was almost like investing in your 401k. It was like, hey, we're going to do this for $10 a month. We're going to try to get 3 to 5 pay-per-view caliber fights. So that's where me and my man hit another rift. He wanted to say it's only been one, but you want to ignore the fact that while Anthony Joshua and when Jarrell Miller was originally scheduled, that's not a pay-per-view fight. But looking into the whole to the whole schedule, it was a purpose behind it. You know, it was his first fight in the U.S. I thought Jarrell Miller, it wasn't the best opponent. Obviously, we all wanted the big fight at that particular time, which Deontay Wilder, for his own reasons, said, I'm gonna go do what I gotta do. You know, no hate nothing towards him. That's what he wanted to do. They shifted it up. I mean, they switched it up and tried to, DAZN switched it up and tried to go do what to take a step towards the big fight. A realistic step, a logical step in making the Miller fight. That gets jacked up. Ruiz comes in. I guess people for $19.99, if you had to come into the program at that point and pay $19.99 for that particular fight, Ruiz and Joshua, I could see that not being enough to pay that. But again, if you don't look at what's around, the weeks that are around that fight, and understand that the World Boxing Super Series was out there, the Cancio and Machado rematch was out there, which was an excellent card, really. I mean, the main event and the co-main in particular. But again, it's crazy how when we're going to look at big picture and when we're going to be myopic. But okay. So then he says, well, they got lucky on the Ruiz thing. They got lucky on that. Okay, but it still sounds like to me they still took a fighter who was a reasonable, who was a risk, who had a chance of winning that fight, and he won it. They didn't just put him in there with anybody. They didn't just put anybody in there with Joshua, and it was a fight where it was 90-10. I mean, very rarely in boxing do we get 50-50 fights if we're keeping it funky. That's just not what boxing is. Just the majority of the calendar is not based on 50-50 fights. The majority of the calendar is probably based on 80-20 fights, 75-25 fights, if we're keeping it funky. And then, as it happens often in boxing, the calculations are a little off. There is an upset, or there is a decision, and then it creates a rematch, or they miscalculated, and then they just adjust. But a lot of times the bulk of the calendar is not 50-50 fights. Maybe 65-35 is more accurate. Maybe 65-35. If you want to say I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, it's 75-25. But again, like I said, in my opinion, when they had to go and switch it up and get a new opponent, and it's a dude with so much riding on it, 5 weeks out, you take this opponent, and like again, looking at it like a 401k, and looking at the annual amount versus week to week, month to month. If you had stayed with it and had just been paying all along, you would have got this big surprise that month. Damn, I didn't even know this fight was gonna end up this decent, or I didn't even understand. I had no idea that this upset was coming, and then it was part of your package. It's just like when your 401k is doing whatever it's doing, and you don't watch it month to month. You don't watch where your monthly contributions are going. But again, I understand, I'm not trying to pat other people's pockets and say what nobody or anybody should be doing or shouldn't be doing with their money. And if you're sensitive to $10 and you quit and you got out of the program and you canceled 3 or 4 months ago, that's on you. You had to do what you had to do. I'm not sitting here trying to say I'm a better boxing fan, or I'm a true boxing fan because I got it. I'm not even trying to say that. I'm just saying from week to week to week I've tuned in, and I am on the $9 a month, $9.99 a month, and it's just been there. And I've watched some decent fights. The debut of Devin Haney on there was a decent fight. Now, had I been paying, and this might be my last point. I see I'm almost to the gig anyway, but I forgot where I was going with that. But damn, just totally lost that one. But with the Devin Haney fight coming over there, that was what I was gonna say was there was like a 7 week period in there where if you would have paid your year, your $99.99 at that point before this, at the end of April was when it started, the last weekend of April. Then it was like a 6 week period where if you would have paid your $99.99 for the whole year, all of that run right there would have basically been the value of your $100, which was like an HBO subscription or a Showtime subscription. Right in that little pocket right there would have been where you really cashed in. Now we get outside of that, and there's other cards that have been on there. Like I said, the Angel Acosta and Elwin Soto fight. I was aware of Acosta, but that was a hell of a fight. I didn't tune in with much, expecting a whole lot on that one. But damn, that was a war. Now that's flyweights. I believe they were flyweights. But okay, that's one to me then. And then to come with I think that was the co-main event for the rematch between Cancio and Machado too. It was a lot of intrigue in that one. Machado gets stopped. It was a good card. It was a good weekend of fights. So all I'm saying is, as a guy who does enjoy to watch boxing, it's been a way to see a lot of fights that I wouldn't have seen in previous years. Did I watch I won't even go there. But and then we look at the Joshua card. Yeah, it was a little bit of a I don't know. Some people didn't believe in Miller being a worthy opponent. At some points, who knew that the Ruiz situation was going to become what it was? But we saw Callum Smith on there. That was a decent introduction to him. You saw a damn good fight in Delphine Persoon and Katie Taylor, showcasing some women. And then the Josh Kelly came over and fought Ray, to the States and fought Ray Robinson to a draw. You come away with your conclusions on that, or what Josh Kelly is and isn't. And then the Buatsi cat was on there, which some people are big on him. I don't know if I saw all of that, but again, looking at it over the course of the year, I've seen it's been more better fights on there than trash that I just didn't care about. So I guess in conclusion, man, at a certain point, I guess if people aren't gonna be patient with the thing, it's like watching the Big Three. Is the Big Three really gonna catch on? Has it caught on? I'm seeing that the Big Three is doing better numbers than who was that? The WNBA. And I'll be honest, man. I mean, not being the biggest or the most diehard NBA guy outside of the playoffs, probably, and at the beginning of the season, and then the draft. Mainly because I'm not into watching. I watch my team. I watch the Detroit Pistons pretty much, and if they stuck, which they usually do, I'm not really in for the other 82 games for everybody else. I watch a handful of the big matchups, the feature games on Saturday or Sunday or whatever, but that's about it. But looking at the Big Three, it's taking time for it to unfold. It's taking time for it to become a product that people really want to see. And it's in its third year, I believe. They've changed up things along the way. They've added certain former players to try to push it along. Like, the zone is something completely new. So it just gets to a point like if I'm them, I don't even know if I worry about black fans. To keep it funky, like, we're in here trying to do it. I mean, if I'm them, we're in here trying to schedule fights. We're trying to make fights. We're trying to get new talent. We're trying to groom them. All of this stuff is going on all at once. And then there's some people that are just sitting here never pleased about nothing. Never come back and say when we did hit with a good fight. But like I said, man, I wasn't the one. I really haven't been, I haven't complained. I've been disappointed at some of the PBC stuff here and there. I've been disappointed by some of the Golden Boy stuff, especially before they moved on to the DAZN. I've been disappointed with some of the Top Rank stuff, or underwhelmed. It just is what it is. But, and going back to like I said, the back and forth that I had with my partner, like, just be out, bruh. Like, you're not obligated to give them your money. Just be out. It's not for you. But again, to sit here and say what they aren't doing when some decent stuff has happened over there is just kind of kills your whole argument to me. It's just, and this is my last point, but that's just like the Joshua fight coming off of that weekend and getting into the week, and cats are doing videos about the fight, and then you listen in and they really didn't even see the fight because they obviously, they don't want to pay the subscription, which is that's their prerogative. But I'm gonna get on here and talk about something that I didn't even see. Okay, I mean, it is what it is out here. And, like I said, man, if anybody, nobody should be sitting around paying for a product and or service that they really don't care for. That's common sense. But that doesn't mean that everything that's going on over there is trash. It just doesn't. Just like all the Top Rank stuff isn't trash. All of the PBC stuff isn't trash. So anyway, man, I got my little rant in today. Let me get on in here. Definitely would have been doper if this was mobile live, but hey, you gotta pay your dues. So like I always say, man, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. 1.